A big thanks to borniak smokers for sponsoring this video.
If you've never seen me use an offset smoker, then you're correct. I don't use offset smokers. And I'm going to show you by example. I've got a brisket to show you exactly what I mean. This is a beautiful, delicious dark red meat with a nice amount of fat coverage. I got the flat and I got the point. So that's going to make one tasty brisket. But the way that I'm going to cook it is not by using an offset smoker. The first reason is that I love the way offset smokers look. They're the real icons of barbecue look and feel. And I would love to have one right here. However, owning one of these devices costs a lot of money, especially if you get a good one. A real solid steel version, thick walls, top quality. And then you would have to have it manufactured locally because shipping these things is going to be very expensive. The second thing is, if you want to have an offset smoker, then you need to think about fuel consumption. I've talked to a lot of people and I've worked with offset smokers enough to understand the amount of fuel that goes into these devices. Now in itself, that's not a real problem because I got a real cabinet behind me with lots of fuel, but it's also time consuming. You have to put in these logs, you have to stay close to the fire, you have to control it, because when it starts burning down, you have to add to it. That means I have to sit next to it. So it's pricey, it costs a lot of fuel, it is time consuming, and the fourth part is that there are so many good alternatives. If you want to cook a brisket like this, that doesn't mean you have to cook it on an offset smoker to get good results. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Get good results. I'm not going to trim this brisket any further than it's already been trimmed. There is some fat, but if you look here in the meat, you don't see the intramuscular fat. So that means it's a leaner piece of beef. All in all, this is an affordable brisket, which means it's a leaner brisket and it's going to cook up drier if you don't watch out. So to solve that problem, I'll be using the 4-2-10 method, which basically won't allow me to fail, and we're going to end up with a delicious brisket. But first, we're going to season it. I'm starting with a tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of ground black pepper, half a tablespoon of onion powder, and half a tablespoon of garlic powder. And that's how you make PitmasterX's Texas beef rub. And of course, you can find that recipe on our new website, PitmasterX.com. The amount of seasoning that you apply to a brisket always depends on how thick your brisket is. So in this case, we do not have the biggest brisket, so I'm just putting on a light coat so I can still see the meat underneath. We do want enough seasoning for you to be able to taste the seasoning, and it has to elevate the flavor of the brisket, the flavor of the beef. The most important part is to make sure that all parts of the brisket have a little bit of seasoning, so you're also gonna season the sides of the brisket. It's just an opportunity to add flavor. You don't want to bite into a piece that has no seasoning onto it. So you gotta put in the extra effort to make it as delicious as you can. There we go. This is starting to look good. This brisket is now ready for the barbecue. I think I've got some explaining to do because this thing looks totally different than anything that an offset smoker looks like. But you don't have to be scared of that. It's not something that's going to hold you from creating the most delicious brisket in the world ever. And as a matter of fact, this is probably going to do a better job than your first 100 cooks on your offset smoker. And if you're thinking, well, hold on, PitmasterX, you're talking about an electric smoker doing just as good as a job as an offset smoker? Yes. That's what I'm saying. If you want to buy an offset smoker, go ahead, do it. Become a master at it and smoke the freaking living things out of it. All I'm saying is, this is going to get you the same result very, very easy. And you're going to be spot on in your first cook. And you're going to have amazing result with the method that we're giving you. Yeah, I think that's the most important part, because offset smokers are awesome, but loads of offset smokers sit in the back of the garden, rusting away, never being used. And I just want you to be successful. And this is not going to be rusting. And it's, well, you just have to clean the outside, just wipe it off every now and then. And the inside is freaking awesome. I'm going to start by opening up the vents. Then I'm going to switch on the control unit. I'm going to switch it on, set it to smoke and heat. And then I'm going to check with our fuel source, because this is the hopper for our smoke wood. I'm gonna switch it on, and then the auger is gonna turn, transporting the smoke wood into the smoking chamber. And now we're getting to the smoke wood selection. The type of wood that you're using should be adjusted to the region that you are living in. For an example, if I have a group of 20 people coming over to eat brisket at my house, and I smoke for them using Texas style of smoke wood like mesquite or post oak, it's gonna be over smoked for them. They're gonna say, wow, it's a bit smoky, it's a little bit too much for me. That's because they're used to beech. So I'm gonna be smoking with my local favorite, the beech, and only add as much as you're going to need for the cook. This is going to be more than enough for 4 hours of smoking. Temperatures are rising. We're getting up to 53 degrees Celsius, so it's slowly going up. Let's take a look inside. If I take this dripping tray out, you can see my heat setup with the heating element in the back and the smoke generator here at the bottom. You can see that we're getting a beautiful light clean smoke that can escape very easily, and that's going to be perfect for cooking briskets or any other types of meat. I'm going to put the dripping tray back in, remove the excess trays. I'm going to slide in my brisket, and I'm making sure that it sits at the same height as my thermometer, so I know it will read out the exact same temperature that my brisket is smoking at. If you want, you can add a thermometer right now. I'm not going to, because I'm using the 4-2-10 method, and that's based on time, not on temperature. So let's close the lid and let this smoke for 4 hours. 4 hours have gone by, and with the 4-2-10 method, that means we finished the first phase of smoking the brisket at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius, and this is the result. I've got a delicious looking bark. Look at how nice, thick and black that is. Beautiful crust, nice and crunchy. All that dry air did its job of building up that beautiful dark color. And now for the second phase, I'm gonna set it to 140 degrees Celsius and let it run for 2 more hours. That will get rid of the puddling and the excess moisture and will create the most beautiful bark you've ever had. 2 hours have gone by, and I want you to come with me and take a look at that brisket, because this thing, look at it, what a beauty. The bark crispened up, beautiful outside, it's turning soft already, which is a good thing, because this thing is supposed to be at around 88 to 90 degrees Celsius. So I'm gonna take out my aluminum foil, lay on my brisket and wrap it up. Now of course I'm using extra thick aluminum foil, but I want that extra layer because this is gonna go for the 10-hour rest. And I don't wanna lose any moisture, I wanna keep it all in, and that's why I gotta have airtight lockdown. Brisket on lockdown, woohoo! There you go. Lockdown. Back on the barbecue. There we go. It goes in, and then I'm gonna close the door, and I'm going to lower the temperature all the way to 65 degrees Celsius. Now of course you can also do this in your oven, but that's the beauty of this device, it's like an oven. I'll bet you $10 this thing is more stable than your oven. Take me up on that bet. That would be a problem.
There's some pretty good ovens there.
Oh man. I had my fingers crossed, The brisket is going in for 10 hours, and of course all these steps, 4-2-10, the whole method, it's on our website, and the website will take you through the process. It's going to be a walk in the park, and you will never fail brisket again, so check that out.
Bet on $10?
That they'll never fail their brisket? With the 4-2-10 method, I'll bet you $10. And while you're waiting for that brisket, you got plenty of time to make some side dishes. And I'm starting with baked beans. Add a lump of butter, 125 grams of bacon strips, a whole diced onion, a clove of garlic, diced up bell pepper, a can of Heinz beans, 3 tablespoons of PitmasterX's classic barbecue rub, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of PitmasterX's sweet apple barbecue sauce, and finish it off with a tablespoon of sugar. Put the beans in an oven tray, sprinkle on a little bit of Gouda cheese, and I like to top it off with a pickled jalapeno, stick it in the broiler, and that's how you make delicious baked beans. For my second recipe, I'm going to heat up a pan, add a little bit of olive oil, a whole bag of panko breadcrumbs, fine chopped parsley, a clove of pressed garlic, some salt, some pepper. Then I'm going to toast it up, and while I'm doing that, I'm adding another tablespoon of olive oil. Once crunchy, set that aside as well and start working on your cheese sauce. Some butter, some flour, and let that flour thoroughly cook And once you got the consistency that you're looking for, start adding shredded cheese. If your cheese sauce is too thick, add a little bit of milk. If it's too runny, just let it cook a little longer until it thickens up. Take out a pan of pre-boiled macaroni, add the cheese sauce, add the bacon strips, a little bit of PitmasterX's classic barbecue rub, mix that together, put it in an oven tray and top the oven tray off with your seasoned breadcrumbs. And stick it in a broiler, and once golden brown, your second side dish is finished. Exciting times, because with all the side dishes done, the brisket is now done as well. It's been sitting for 10 hours in the borniak at a temperature of 65 degrees Celsius. It is ready for us to take it out. At 65 degrees, it's okay to handle. If it's hotter than that, don't touch it. Let's get to the unwrapping part. Did we create an epic brisket? Or do we need an offset smoker to do it? Oh, yo, look at this brisket. Boy, that is near perfection. Look at the color. Juicy as can be, an absolutely fantastic bark. What more could you wish for? I think the neighbors are smelling the brisket. Look at that. What a beautiful brisket. Ooh, look at that. Look at how tender this is. Oh, come on. Cooked all the way to done. Look at how juicy that is. That is the fat that rendered down, and that makes this brisket extremely juicy. Let's take another bite. Make sure that the bark's good. It's really good.
It's really smoky.
Smoky.
Smoky, tender, juicy.
As a matter of fact, I'm amazed how good this is. This wasn't one of those expensive Wagyu or Black Angus briskets. This was a quite affordable brisket, and it tastes really freaking amazing. Let's slice up this brisket and plate it up, because we got a beautiful recipe coming. It looks like it has no smoke ring, but this thing is fully smoked with smoke ring. On this delicious tray, I like to put a couple of slices of white bread. I already have my macaroni and cheese. I got my baked beans. I got my brisket. And then you need to balance everything out with a little bit of acidity. So I'm adding some pickles. And if you like spicy, a couple of jalapeno peppers, pickled of course. Now this is a delicious barbecue tray.